They cannot prove it. So the writer, they maintained integrity and truthfulness. Now we examine the gospel, if we examine the gospel writers by the above two standards, all four evangelists will come out 100% successful. Matthew and John had been with Jesus for 3 years. They were with him not merely as occasional visitors, but as full-time disciples living with him, traveling with him, and commissioned by them. Mark and Luke both qualified to write the Gospels by virtue of Mark being the spiritual son of Peter, and Luke as a careful historian who has researched the history of Jesus Christ. Besides, Luke has been the associate of Apostle Paul. Mark had been a witness of himself of many of the things that happened in the life of Christ. Mark's mother Mary, her home was the center of many of the activities of Jesus Christ. Mark followed Jesus Christ to the trial as a young boy. Among the 12 disciples of Jesus, John had a unique relationship with Jesus. You know, the tradition says that John was the cousin of Jesus Christ. We don't know. But we know that John was a special disciple because we read that John whom Jesus loved most. John, Peter and James were the three disciples who were taken with Jesus on special occasions like the Mount of Transfiguration. And then even Gethsemane, the 11 were taken to one certain extent, and then the 3 were taken with him to farthest extent. And to the Jairus home when she was going to be raised. And all these disciples were with him. Even when all the disciples of Jesus has deserted him at the trial and the following crucifixion, John faithfully stayed with Jesus at the cross. He was very close to the cross itself. There is a tradition from the first century that Christ and John were cousins. Christ's mother Mary and John's mother are said to be sisters. If this tradition is true, then John is blessed with access to accurate information about the birth, childhood, etc. of Jesus Christ. This could be a reason why John was the most beloved disciple of Jesus Christ, and this may be the reason why John's mother came to Jesus with a recommendation, hey, blood is thicker than water. You know, your Peter and your other disciples are water, but these are your cousins, James and John. Make sure they'll sit on the left and the right. And Jesus said, well, blood may be thicker than water, but this issue is decided by the Father in heaven, you know. So that tradition may be right, you know, I don't know. That's a tradition. So my point is, John definitely had a greater access to the story of Jesus than anybody else. Mark is supposed to be an eyewitness to the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Mark 14:51 tells us about Mark as a young boy following Christ to the trial with only a cloth on his body. Besides, Mark is said to be the nephew of Barnabas, who was supposed to be the alternative candidate for Judas. When they had to choose one instead of Judas, 2 people were found qualified. One is called Barsabbas, which scholars all agree that he is the same as the Barnabas. So Barnabas, you know, was with Jesus for 3 years, and Barnabas' own nephew is John Mark. So any lack for information about Jesus Christ? Definitely not. In essence, to say that the writers of these Gospels had no direct knowledge of the life of Christ is a joke. Every one of the 4 evangelists who superbly are qualified to write the Gospels, they are. Yes. Yeah, I will try to cover one more point. The similarities of the Gospels, that's another. One of the proofs for the trustworthiness of the Gospel is their similarities one with the other. The first 3 Gospels are viewed basically similar. They are called the synoptic Gospel. Synoptic means similar Gospel. The Gospels which agree one another. It is, syn means with, optic means to see, You have many kinds of optics, Yes. And the optics are all to, glasses that to see. So synoptics to see similar, to look similar. That is what. So it is worthy to point out that Mark and Luke probably had the familiarities one another. There is no evidence to establish, as some suggest, that Luke based his gospel on Mark. However, we must admit that Matthew, Mark and Luke have great similarity. Out of the 661 verses of Mark, 606 are found in Matthew. Out of the 661 verses of Mark, 606 are found in Matthew. 380 verses of Mark are found in Luke also. Only negligible differences exist among the verses. Matthew has 1068 verses. 500 of these verses are found in Mark also. Luke has 1149 verses, out of which 380 are found in Mark. Only 31 verses of Mark do not have parallel verses in the other Gospels, according to Bruce. Bruce was the greatest scholar who lived in the 20th century, biblical scholar, So according to Bruce, say that only 31 verses do not have a parallel. The same way Matthew and Luke have 250 verses in common. What these similarities show? Definitely they show that the Gospels are reliable records. However, these writers never consulted in the writing of the Gospels. Among them, there never existed a conspiracy to produce a biography of Jesus Christ. Similarity need not be a sign of forgery. They could be a sign of genuineness. 2,000 rupee notes you have taken, you turn this way, that way, they are identical. Does that mean they are forgeries? Similarity does not prove forgery. Similarity also only proves genuineness. Yeah, see? John's gospel is the last gospel. John wrote his gospel decades after the other gospels were written. There is a good possibility that John had read the other three gospels, and therefore John had taken special care to write what other gospels did not write, did not mention. John's theme was totally different from the other theme. John wanted to present the aspect of the deity of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Christ was very clearly and systematically presented as, as the Son of God by John. He wanted the readers not only to know about the deity, but also believe and be saved by that knowledge. For he clearly stated that in John chapter 20, verse 30 and 31. John has sworn to the truthfulness whatsoever he has written. Repeatedly he said, what I write is true because I am an eyewitness. Because he was writing some things the other gospel writers did not write. So some people could think that, hey, others never mentioned about it. So John said, what I write is true because I was present there, I was an eyewitness. John had great familiarity with every place Christ has ministered during his public ministry. John knew the exact distance from Jerusalem to the different places of Christ's ministry. John 11 and all, you can see it. John knew why Aenon was chosen for baptism, because there was much water. He knew it. He knew how many porches Bethsaida had. 5 porches. Such information again show that John was a man who was familiar with Jerusalem. Every nook and corner of Jerusalem. He knew the distance between, Bethsaida and this place, or between Jerusalem and Bethany. Bethany. He knew exactly. He says all those things exactly. How? Because John was not a stranger to that place. John was born and brought up there, so he knew, all those things. So he was an eyewitness to the activities of Christ in those places. There is no reasonable room to question the truthfulness of the gospel accounts. We will stop it there, and then next we will move to the writings of Paul, which is again a large area. So what meant to say that any accusation by anybody that the gospels are not reliable, is a false accusation. And that person who raised that accusation has a biased interest. He either wanted to prove Jesus is not a historical reliability, because his theory and Jesus' theory both cannot stand, and he knows where Jesus stands, he has to fall. And that's true many places. You cannot, this and that cannot go together. So one has to go. Question is, who will? They are trying hard for Jesus to go, but it will be very hard for Jesus to go, because he has been a reality in the world for 2,000 years. conquered every nation, every people, every language. Yes. Where are these people? Madam O'Hare, you heard of Madam O'Hare? She was the president of the, atheistic movement in America for a long time. She has only one son. She has raised up this son such a way that he drank the milk of atheism. Day in and day night. When that boy became an adult, he accepted Jesus Christ and became a preacher for Jesus Christ. He knew my mother was wrong all the way. That's it. Russians tried their best for years and years. How many batches of students they had in the classrooms. Every batch, beginning with Lenin, they have started talking about, Jesus is a myth, Jesus is a myth, there is no God, there is no God. They make the children repeat that after. One day, if the teacher doesn't say, the child will say, there is God. So finally, what they have given it up. They have given it up. Today, in Russia, people can have Bible, they can go to church. Why? With all your, iron rod, you were ruling with all your muscles, and your atheism was there, your communism was there, your everything was there, Marx's theories were there, Hegel's theories were there, and, dialectical materialism was there, whatever you want to call it, there. What happened to you? The harder we rub the truth of God and Christianity, the clearer they become. That's true. China also given up. Now they permit some Bibles and all. They don't want to do it the whole the way because that's a shame upon them. Yeah? Yes. C.S. Lewis was an atheist. You know that? Yeah, C.S. Lewis was an atheist. He wanted to prove Bible is fake. He started reading. By the time he finished the Bible, he became a Christian. He started writing that the Bible and Jesus Christ are true. There are so many such people. Anybody who has read the Bible once honestly, they have become believers of the Bible. Dr. Nambudripad, K.N. Nambudripad, who was the president of the Ludhiana Medical College, and was a Brahmin converted, and he one day was talking, we were listening to him, and he said that the first day he read Bible, he became a Christian. He said that he went for a party, and everybody was serving liquor in England, all medical doctors and all that. Dr. George, I will call you back in 10-15 minutes. I'm taking a class now, okay? All right. So, the nurse was sitting there. She was not drinking liquor, So I asked her, why are you not drinking? She said, I'm a Christian. What do you mean by you're a Christian? Aren't all these people Christian in England? They're all drinking. He said that I don't know they're Christians or not. I think they are not. I'm a Christian, I don't drink. So she presented him a gospel, New Testament. So read it. He went home, all night he read it. As much as he could. By morning he was a Christian. So he was telling that the reason why people oppose Christianity is because they have never read the Bible. You don't need to do anything. You just give them a Bible and tell them, for God's sake, you read it once without bias. Muslim or anybody. It's so easy to oppose whom you do not know, right? The more you know a person, the less you can oppose him. Yeah, that's true. Especially when that person is a good person. The Bible is a book like that. So anybody who reads the Bible, honestly, they have it too. Because that book is the truth. This is the truth, the absolute truth, pristine purity, Yeah. So if you have not read it, I know you have all read, but for any reason, if your knowledge about Jesus Christ is hearsay, well, take copy of the Bible, start reading from the John's Gospel, and then read the New Testament, then go to the Old Testament. I know by the time you finish the New Testament, you will be on your knees with your hands lifted up saying, I have wasted my life to this day. I chased after many things, not reality. Thank God, you are real. You are real. That's true. That's true. So I will stop my words here.